Europe 1993. Families torn apart by the war in Bosnia are reunited with their relatives. For all the tears, these refugees are the lucky ones. Most others will end in pitiful transit camps. In this week's episode of Disguises, Granada reporter Adam Holloway joins a convoy of refugees, victims of ethnic cleansing, one of the cruelest practices emerging from war-torn former Yugoslavia.
It's the human tragedy of refugee groups like these that's the real story behind the war in Bosnia. Only hours earlier, this group of 500 Muslims had been driven out of their homes by Serb gunmen. Stripped of their possessions, this bedraggled column in buses had reached a bridge when I joined them. The last remaining bridge over the River Sava. It's what separates the war in Bosnia and a United Nations protected area. But it doesn't mean safety for these refugees. The bridge is patrolled by UN soldiers, but at either end are Serb checkpoints. In the pretense of monitoring busloads of refugees, Serb police take money and arrest Muslim families for questioning.
Hold on. Let's go on the bridge. Can we go on the bridge, take some pictures?
Gdje ima, ja ništa razumijem. Jel ima koji prevodilac, ko razumije? Šta ćete snimat?
Can we go on the bridge?
Ne vrej to, nema snimanja.
Nema snimat ništa.
Nema ništa snimanja. Oduzet ću sve. Kameru i sve.
Tam snimaj.
Kamera će otići.
The column of 500 Muslim and Croat refugees I joined had been forced out of Banja Luka, the Serb capital, at 6 this morning. They'd taken until late afternoon to travel just 30 miles because of a string of Serb checkpoints on the road. The inhuman process of ethnic cleansing has become technically very advanced in this part of Bosnia. The buses are provided by the Serbs. The agency organizing the exodus is Serb. Refugees must pay the Serbs 300 Deutschmarks for the privilege of leaving, and the final act before becoming a refugee is to sign your house over to a Serb family. Days earlier, I'd secretly made a journey south from the bridge of Bosanska Gradiska to the Serb capital of Bosnia, Banja Luka, the center of ethnic cleansing. I'm now inside Serb-controlled Bosnia, finding where the refugees come from. On the road south to Banja Luka, a smashed Muslim graveyard and mosque, first evidence of the systematic destruction of a culture. Then, 10 miles west of Banja Luka, an extraordinary sight, an entire valley in the Kozara region, empty and destroyed. This was once a Muslim community. Now, it's been ethnically cleansed. This is what happened here last summer. A Serb army unit ringed the valley with tanks. Then they placed crosses on each Muslim house, much like the crosses placed on the houses of Jews in Germany before the Second World War. The Serb commander told the Muslims to surrender their weapons. The Muslims were mainly farmers, so they brought out their hunting rifles. Next, the Serb soldiers said, "Bring out your machine guns and heavy weapons or we fire." The Muslims panicked and ran. To encourage them, tanks and artillery rounds were fired onto many of the houses. This is how the refugee chain starts. Drunken young men with guns come round their villages and shoot up their houses and steal their property, leading eventually to this, the systematic, wholesale destruction of complete villages here, stretching all the way up the hill. So they must be relieved when they pay their money and they board the buses to get out of here and into Croatia. A year ago, there were 20,000 Muslims in this valley. They made up 95% of the population. Now, there are none. In the attacks, 6,000 civilians are thought to have died. Those who couldn't scramble over the border in refugee columns were herded into makeshift concentration camps only a few miles from here. In this house, on the floor, I found this old Yugoslav passport belonging to Bera Hustrik. We don't know what happened to him, but like the others, his house was burned. The passport is out of date and useless, but in order to become a Muslim refugee, I'm going to need an identity, so I'm going to use his name. Although I can't experience the terror those families must have felt, I'm going to try to experience what it feels like to be a refugee on the long road from Bosnia. About 1,000 refugees cross the bridge each day, and they're coming from here. This is Banja Luka, Serb capital of Bosnia, and headquarters of the Serb army. It's the center of a different kind of terror. No need to burn down whole communities in this stronghold. The city is being ethnically cleansed by selective assassination. Banja Luka was once ethnically well integrated. It was a third Serb, a third Croat and a third Muslim. Now the Muslim areas of the city echo to the sound of random gunfire day and night as ethnic cleansing gathers pace. Again, the process is reminiscent of pre-war Germany. Muslims are prevented from working, so they have no money. After selective assassinations, groups flee to the border.
What's it like to be in this street, in this town, at night?
We can't go out after 6 o'clock because the militia are in the area. They have automatic weapons on their shoulders. They shoot at people and they shoot over our heads.
Why do you think they killed your husband?
I don't know if he was killed deliberately. As far as I know, there was no reason for him to be killed. No reason whatsoever.
It's not just the Muslims who are being ethnically cleansed. The Croat community in Banja Luka are being forced out too. With the help of a nun, Croats describe what happens.
Can she tell us why she did not want her face to be seen on the camera? Why she wanted the light behind her when we did the interview?
We're not showing our faces because we don't want to be recognized, and our houses will be destroyed.
If there is a hell, this is hell for Croat.
I love my children, but us older people expect to be killed every night.
She expects every evening that they will come and kill them.
This then is ethnic cleansing. The only escape route for this group of 500 victims is the bridge bordering Bosnia and the UN protected area. But the column I've joined has been stalled by Serbian police on the bridge. Thrown out of their homes in Banja Luka this morning, the column still have Serb checkpoints to get through before they're safe. The hold-up is because a group of Croat refugees in a car have arrived at the bridge without the right clearance papers. They abandoned their car, and UN police smuggled the family over the bridge in their own truck under the noses of the Serbs.
Convoy, go, go, go!
UN police risk moving the convoy with the family hidden on board.
Big problem. We have to get going.
But there's still one Serb checkpoint to get through before the convoy and the family are safe. We're in no man's land. These refugees have 3 options open to them. Those with the correct documents will go to Sweden and Germany. Others will stay with relatives in Zagreb, the Croatian capital 50 miles away. Those with little money or no papers will end up in Croatian refugee camps trying to find a way out to Europe. I've decided to attach myself to the last group to find out what happens to them. For this part of the trip, I have a Croat interpreter, Andrea, also trying to pass off as a refugee. We approach the last Serb checkpoint. Serb police at the bridge have phoned ahead to say there's a family illegally on board the convoy. Trouble begins when Serb police begin searching buses to arrest the family. This is the edge of a UN zone, and UN police object. Also present at the checkpoint is the sector's UN civilian head, Gerard Fischer. Stenka, the UN interpreter, translates.
That is a family which came with a car which wasn't allowed to cross the bridge, and the family is on the bus. Now they are mentioning just that that family don't have the right papers.
Fischer argues for the lives of the family with the Serb police.
U konvoju se nalaze osobe koje su prešle bez papira, dok osobe ne izađu van koje nemaju papire, konvoj dalje ne može ići. Ako treba borba, borba.
He is saying that if that persons don't step out from a convoy, convoy will be stopped here, and if there is a need for fighting, we will have a fighting.
Yeah, this is the best thing. Fighting is already solves all the problems, right?
Kaže, ali će borba riješiti sve probleme.
Right?
Prolaz nema.
Okay.
There's no.
You don't understand the rules of the Cyrus-Vance plan.
No,
but I am interested in it because this is our sector and not your sector.
As tension increases, the Serb police begin searching cars, ostensibly looking for weapons among the refugees.
This is not in line with the Cyrus-Vance plan, what they're doing at the moment.
I know that.
So I would advise you to stop them if you're in charge. They cannot do that. They are UNPA, and this has nothing to do with Srpska Krajina, and this is totally out of line. Totally out of line. This is totally out of line what you're doing.
They're going to get the military to...
I am going to bring the military in here.
They're going to bring the military in if they don't allow the convoy.
You cannot stop them and check them. You can't. You are not the border police. You're not the border police.
You are not allowed.
And if you want, we bring the military in and get it through.
They said that they can block the road if there is a need.
Bolje da te dve osobe izađu i da nam se kaže koje su to osobe, da vidimo...
I'm getting the Jordanians now. I'm getting the Jordanians.
Who are they?
Some military assistance. You can?
In the end, only the threat of a machine gun from Jordanian UN troops gets the convoy past the Serbs. At dusk, the convoy moves off again to a Croat checkpoint a mile away and to safety. All they must endure now is hours of Croatian bureaucracy. The first thing refugees learn is waiting. While we wait for the Croats to process our papers, we learn more about ethnic cleansing.
At the furthest village, the houses were burnt. The Serbs asked me to take my furniture and clothing from my house. If you don't, we'll burn it.
We haven't brought much, mostly clothes, and just a Walkman. I didn't want them touching our valuables when they searched us.
This is Europe in 1993, and we're seeing the enforced movement of entire populations not seen since the Second World War.
It cost a lot to get out.
And we had to pay in Deutschmarks. I estimate for the amount of money we gave, we could exist for a whole year.
So this is the paper saying that he was in a concentration camp. That's okay, you say that. He was in the concentration camp at Ternopoli, I see. And his whole family was there as well?
All my family were there.
How many other families were there? He has 2 children. How many other families were in the concentration camp?
4,046.
This child was in a concentration camp? Where was that? Where was the concentration? Another Croatian checkpoint down the road. More paperwork. Relatives from Zagreb and Austria have heard about the convoy and are looking for missing relatives on the buses from Bosnia. You must be very tired. You're tired?
Very, very tired.
And do you know where you're going to now?
Now somebody comes and only come on the doors and knocking and say, please, you have for 2 o'clock you must go out, and you go out only with this bag. Nothing you can get out of that house.
The lucky ones are those being met by relatives from Croatia. They live in hope, while our group on the buses become the real refugees. Then the convoy moves on to safety and the refugee camps. We're dropped at Novska railway station, and the buses return to Bosnia for tomorrow's consignment of refugees. No one knows what's happening or what we're meant to do. It's midnight and 5 degrees below. The people left Banja Luka at 6 this morning. These scenes could be a replay from World War II. Perhaps this is the reason why older people remain calm while young children whose day began as an adventure collapse into silence. "18 hours ago, these people left their homes and are now waiting in a railway siding for the train to go to Zagreb. We've just heard that it's not leaving now till 5 in the morning because the authorities there don't want to receive any refugees before then." We begin moving to Zagreb. Then the talking starts again. All people have now is their memories.
We'll never go back.
Yes, we will. Where will we go if we don't? The rights of the 3 communities will be the same. We'll be back.
We surrendered. That's why we weren't killed. 600 were sent to Zenica concentration camp. Just 90 survived and the rest were killed.
We've suddenly become a commuter train for Zagreb businessmen. The real reason we didn't leave Novska until 5 a.m. For a few moments, the refugees become part of normal life again. I have no papers, apart from the old passport I found, so Andrew and I join a group stuck in Croatia. Our next home will be a refugee camp. We're going to approach the local Red Cross. I can't speak the language, so Andrew is going to say I'm a Muslim refugee from Banja Luka who's dumb. We journey across Zagreb to a government centre which we're told will register refugees.
Hello, this boy came from Novska with a train of refugees which arrived this morning. Do you know about it? You don't know about it.
Where did it come from?
Banja Luka. He can't speak. He's a Muslim. He can't speak and he cannot cope alone. Where does he need to go?
Because he's a Muslim, he should go to the mosque.
You only take people from Croatia? They sent us over here.
You have to have a letter of guarantee. Without that, we can do little. He is an illegal.
Without papers, he can't stay here, then?
As far as the Croatian government is concerned, I'm an illegal because I have no documents. So with Samir, a Muslim interpreter who's also becoming a refugee to help me, we look for shelter at Zagreb's main mosque. Since communities began pouring out of Bosnia, the mosque has become the focus of all Muslim activity in Zagreb. Food aid and clothes from around the world are sent here. Refugees are smuggled out of Bosnia, and soldiers are smuggled back in. It's also a haven for refugees who are stuck, those without proper papers. The basement is already overflowing. If you're lucky, you're allocated a space 4x4. We're given temporary space near a family from Sanski Most, one of the worst-hit Muslim areas by Bosnian Serbs.
Put your luggage near the door and wait.
You can sit here.
Are you moving on?
I don't know. I don't know.
Have you any documents? Are you off to Germany?
We've got nothing.
Have you got any papers?
I've got an old Yugoslav passport valid until 1995. I need to go forward. If I can't, I'll go back to Bosnia. There are 4 of our family scattered in 3 countries. It's a situation out of my control.
You can't go to your husband in Austria? You can't get to him?
I can't. They won't let me travel.
Somehow, letters are smuggled out of Bosnia and arrive at the mosque for distribution.
How do these letters arrive?
They come through Novska with the help of the refugee convoy.
Food and supplies are smuggled back into Bosnia from the mosque under the noses of the Serbs.
That lady with the letter, she was looking for a letter from who?
From her son.
Where's he?
In Prijedor.
What's he doing there?
He's in prison there.
Towards the late afternoon, Samir and I are allocated a small space in one corner of the mosque. Space is becoming increasingly limited as the mosque fills up with yet more refugees without papers. We too are stuck. We have to find papers of our own. We have to move on.
Next week, Adam Holloway and Samir go in search of documents to get out of Croatia. Their journey takes them through pitiful refugee camps reminiscent of the Second World War, to a center for Bosnian concentration camp victims where they try to buy passports. Ending on the Old Iron Curtain, where Adam is arrested at machine gun point attempting to cross into Austria illegally.